Hi, welcome to this Blender tutorial. Today we're going to be taking a look at using the physics engine in order to create an animation. So we're going to do a little modeling to set up our scene with a wrecking ball. We're going to use the array modifier in order to quickly create a stack of blocks. We're going to be assigning rigid bodies to all of those objects in order for gravity and friction and all of the wonderful physics to take over and cause that wrecking ball to smash into those bricks. So let's get started here. We're in our scene. We just are in a general Blender scene. I'm using 2.83 here, but anything past 2.83 should work. Let's go ahead and begin by deleting our cube here and adding Shift A to add a torus. So we're going to make the chain first. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this from the front. I'm going to hit 1 on my numpad, and then I'm going to rotate the torus, which is the donut shape, by hitting RX90, which will rotate it, and then hit Enter to lock that in. So now I've got my donut here. I'm going to turn that into a link of chain here. I'm going to click Tab to go into Edit mode and make sure that I have my X-ray up here selected. So I'm selecting all the way through. So I can grab everything just above that midline, use GZ and raise this up so that it looks a bit more like a chain, and then tab back into object mode. That's a pretty big chain. We're going to scale it down. If you take a look, if you hit in and you take a look at the item, we can see that the chain in the X is 2.5 meters wide. That's like 7.5 feet wide, right? And then it's closer to 11 or 12 feet tall. 3.32 meters is like 3.3 yards, right? So pretty big. So we're gonna need to scale that down. But let's get our chain. It's nice to work like this while it's large here. We're going to Shift D, duplicate that, bring it down in the Z. I'm going to lock that into the Z, and we're going to bring that down to right about here, and then rotate it around the Z, or Z90, and hit Enter to lock that in. So now we've got our two bits of chain here, and we still got X-ray mode on, so I'm going to switch out of X-ray mode. And what we're going to do is use a little shortcut to quickly make the chain. So I'm going to select both of these, Shift select both of the objects. They're each their own object here, and I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate in the Z, just like I did before, but I'm going to bring that down and left click to lock it. Now if you zoom out here, you can hit Shift R and it'll repeat the last action that you did, so you can quickly make this chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 links. Let's make a few more links here. All right, so we've got about 14, 12, 14 links, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we're going to highlight these, box select these, and I'm going to use GZ in order to bring those up. What we need to do here is we need to add our wrecking ball. So we're going to use Shift A and add a mesh, a UV sphere, and we're going to, for now, scale it up so it's about the appropriate size with the rest of our chain. And then you can use GZ to bring it up about halfway point here. So you can Shift select both of these objects, that last link and the wrecking ball here, and choose Control J in order to join those. So now we've kind of modeled our wrecking ball. Now we haven't applied any physics to it yet. So let's apply some physics to it and see what happens. Okay. So one of the things that we're going to want to do is we can select everything other than our camera and our light here. Let's go ahead and scale this down first, so that it's best to scale it before you start adding physics to it. So we want it to be a little bit more lifelike here. So, and we're going to use GZ to bring that down closer to the origin. All right. So let's check one of our links here and see what size it is. So I'm going to select here, choose in, make sure I'm on Item tab, and I'm at 0.5 meters. So it's still quite large, but it's like 1.5 feet now. And I think we probably can work with that. It won't freak out the physics engine too much. So let's add some physics to these objects here. So I'm going to select all of these, and we're going to come down to the little, looks like a little planet with a maybe a sun with a planet rotating around it, or an atom with an electron. So it's a little dot with this. So in here we've got a rigid body as our is what we're largely working with today, is rigid bodies. We're going to be adding these. These apply physics to objects. So right now they're all active, meaning that gravity and other things will sort of affect them. Right now the mass is at 1 kilograms. So we're going to go up to, we're going to try 4 kilograms on everything. We want to keep it dynamic. And the shape here is really should be mesh. We want it, a collision box is created, and a convex hull means it's kind of bubbling out past the object, and we want the little collider box that's going to determine when things are touching and not touching to be as close as we can to the actual mesh. So we'll click mesh there, and now all we did was really change the rigid body. We've added a rigid body to this one active object. Notice that we've got the 4 kilograms and the mesh down here, but for these other objects we do not, because what we need to do is select all of these, shift select the one that we've got the settings on, our active object, and then we have to go to object, down to rigid body, and choose copy from active. That's going to copy those settings to all of the other items. So now when we go click these, we can see we've got 4 kilograms and we've got that mesh shape on them. All right. So let's, how do we act? How do we create, and activate our physics engine? Well, you actually can just hit the space bar, and what we should see is this entire thing dropping because gravity is going to be now pulling down on it. So let's hit the space bar. All right, we can see it dropping there. You can hit space to pause, and this is the rewind button down here. You can jump to an endpoint. Okay, so we're going to go back to the original. So how do we keep this hanging? Well, we can take this top link here, go back into rigid body, and change it from active to passive, meaning that it will not move. Gravity won't be affecting it, but it still has its other forces. So let's click space in order to run it. And we want to make sure our chain is holding. If our chain isn't holding, it's very likely that we have some scale issues. So you're going to want to take a look at your dimensions. I'm going to pause my animation, rewind it here. So my dimensions are about for a chain link is about 0.5 for an X, 0.6 for a Y. 0.1 meters is the width, basically, of the link. And I am using, let me switch to another one here, 4 kilograms is the mass. Now I'm going to increase the size of the weight of the ball. I want the ball to be a bit bigger. I'm going to see if I can go up to 10. And then I'm going to hit my space bar and test that to see if it still works. Yeah, it's still holding together. It's fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to pause that, rewind, and now we are ready to create our bricks and position our wrecking ball. I'm going to actually select all of these, right-click, and shade smooth, so it looks a little bit more like real chain and a wrecking ball. All right, and now down here at our origin, we're going to hit Shift-A and add some ground here, a plane, and size that up. So I hit S and pulled on the mouse to scale that out. You also could, let me undo that. You can also, if you wanted to have the exact same measurements, if I hit S and then 10, my ground is 10 by 10 of these sort of blender units, which are meters typically. So, all right, so I've got my ground here. Now I'm ready to start building I'm going to actually rotate my, I'm going to take my wrecking ball here and chain and just move it up out of the way because I'm going to be adding a big stack of cubes down here. So to add a cube, we're going to go back and add our cube. Okay, and of course we need to make that a bit smaller. So let's hit S and scale that down. In fact, we can hit S 0.5 to make it half that size. So S 0.5 will make it about half. We might want to look at it from the side and then use GZ in order to get it to sit. You want it to sit just above that plane. All right. So it looks pretty good. Let's apply some physics to our plane, our ground. Right now our ground, if we hit the space bar, is going to fall away. I think it's going to fall away. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's not going to fall away because there's no physics attached to it. Everything would fall through our ground right now. So we want to click rigid body, go into passive, choose passive, and shape mesh like we did before should be fine. Or you could do, yeah, mesh is probably good, or box. Box would probably be good because we'll be using that for the boxes as well. All right, so and then our object here, our block, we want to make a maybe an 8 by 8 by 6 stack of blocks here. So in order to do that, we're going to actually use the modifier. So if you go into modifiers, in the top of the generate column, which is the second column, is array, which basically just multiplies what you've got. So I've got a box there. If I click array, multiply, you can see that there's now the box is twice as wide in the x direction because I've got a count here of 2 and my offset is in the x direction here, this 1. Okay, well I actually want it to be closer to 8 blocks wider, but I want a little separation in there. If they're too close together and you put a rigid body in there, they'll explode. So I'm going to change my offset to 1.1 and you'll see a little break in between each of these. All right, so now we have a row of 8 in the x. Now we can multiply all of those in the y by 8 by going back up here, adding another array modifier. Now be careful, this is the x modifier here. You want to scroll down and find the one where it says count 2 because it's multiplied by 2 in the x again because that's the default. So we're going to switch this to 8 and we see that happening in the x. So if you pan out here, you can see we've got 8 there, but we want them in the y direction. So what we're going to do is take that and zero out the x, and we're going to go to the y here and put 1.1 in. Now you can see we've got that nice grid of blocks in the x and the y. So now we've got one more to add here. We're going to go back up to the top, add another array modifier, scroll all the way down to the bottom. We could find it when we get to 2, and let's make that 6. But we're not going to do that in the x. We're going to zero the x out like we did before, go down to the z. We want that to multiply in the z direction. And so we're going to put 1.1 in there. And now we've got a stack of blocks, except they're really not a stack of blocks. Right now it really is only one block, and that's this block down here in the corner that we started with. So we have got to do a few things to separate these into actual individual objects. First, we need to apply our modifiers. So we got to do that very carefully. We want to do that down here at the very bottom. We want to apply the z one first. So look for where it says z 1.1 and then click apply. Now notice it's gone. That we just have the x one here, 1.1, and then the y one here. So go down to the y one, the one at the bottom, click apply again, and then finally click apply on the top one. All right, so now we have one object, but what we really want is we want 8 times 8 times 6 objects, right? So let's come around here and see if we can't get a side view here. Let's go to right orthographic. I'm trying to avoid the light here. Maybe I just move my light out of the way. Where's my light? There's my light. It's in the middle, so we'll move this for now. All right, so let's go back into that. See, I'm in 3 on my numpad, which is right orthographic, and I'm going to go into my X-ray mode, and I'm going to box select all of the cubes here. Okay, I'm going to go into oh, I have my light selected, so even though I was trying to get my light out of the way, I did not quite manage to do that. All right, so I'm going to go back to 3, right orthographic. Now my light's over here and my camera's over here. Okay. All right, now I've got those selected, and I should be able to go into edit mode. It is still not letting me get into edit mode. There we go. All right, I just had to select on the array of bricks there, and now I'm in edit mode. So what I want to do in edit mode is I want to go to mesh up here in the top left, mesh, and go down to there is an operation where you can separate by loose parts. Now all of those boxes, if I go into object mode, you can see that they're all boxes, but the problem is that all of them share this origin point down here. In this box, that little guy right there, and we want all of them to have their own origin. So we've got to do another thing here. We're going to hit 3, go into right orthographic. I'm going to highlight all of these again. This time I'm going to use F3, so that's function 3 at the very top of your keyboard. You might have to hit another key to get function 3, and the search box is going to come up. I'm going to hit set origin and choose set origin and origin to geometry. That will take and make every individual object have its own origin, and it'll center it in the boxes, and we kind of need that for the physics to work. So I'm going to hit origin, set origin. Now you see all these little dots here. Perfect. Okay, so now they're all individual little boxes and their origins are in the right place. So what we need to do now is we need to apply physics to these as well so that they can be smashed by our wrecking ball. So right now this is our active object, the little one with the kind of yellowish orange outline down here. So let's go into physics again, go to rigid body. We're going to make these really light. We're going to go start with 0.1 kilograms here, and we want to make sure that the shape here, I've found better luck. I've tried using mesh, and sometimes my little box, my stack of boxes explodes. I found that if I go to box, because they are box shaped, it's a tighter fitting collision around it, so they don't, the physics engine doesn't think things are intersecting and pushing them apart violently, which causes explosions. We want to control the explosion when the wrecking ball hits them. So try box, and then this was only, remember, we only changed the physics setting on this little cube here. We actually need to copy it across all of these. And so in order to do that, we go back up to object, down to rigid body, and over to copy from active. Now this might take a minute, so you can see it's paused here even though I've clicked copy from active. So that might take a minute. I've got my little wheel spinning. The computer's trying to make that rigid body happen for the 8x8x6 blocks there. All right. So at this point, we want to, actually I want to still have, I go into right orthographic, and I think I still have my x-ray on, I do, so I can select these guys. I'm going to go ahead and maybe hit 7, which is my top orthographic view, so that I can move these in the x, kind of center them up, and then gy, move them kind of in the y. They don't have to be perfectly centered, but somewhere in the center is probably good. All right, and then I need to grab my wrecking ball here, and I need to move it. So I'm going to use GX to slide it over and GZ to kind of get it down. I want to see where the ground is. So ground's right about there. I might want to scale this up, which I need to be careful of because I could break it. So let's see. I can actually, you know what? I know it's working. So I am going to scale my blocks down rather than scale my chain down. So I'm going to, still got X-ray on. I've got all my boxes selected. I'm going to go ahead and make them a bit smaller and then use GZ in order to place them just above. You don't want them to intersect with the ground. They need to be just on the ground. Okay, so now I've got ball about where the height I want it, but it's not in the right place, right? I want it to basically swing into these. So I'm going to put it here, and then I'm going to use a little trick. I'm going to shift right click to get my 3D cursor up here, and then I can use this little control, this little drop down menu to make the 3D cursor be my pivot point, which means when I rotate this in the Y, I can tilt it up kind of the way I want. Now I need to make this little, right now if I hit play, everything just sort of drops here, I think. Oh, actually I've got my top chain already on passive, so it's perfect. So it seems to be working just fine. All right, we're going to get a better render though. So let's take a look here. Let's get out of X-ray mode so things look a little bit more solid here. And then yeah, you can test it out. So hit the space bar. That is working well. If you want more flight on your box, I'm going to pause that, rewind it. One of the things you could do is set yours to be like 0.05 kilograms. The lighter these are and the heavier the ball, the more energy you're going to get, the more explosive that impact is going to be. But you still want to kind of keep it in reason. All right, last things we need to do here is we need to get a, if you go into render, you'll see that we are dark at this point. So we need to lighten this scene up a bit, and we need to get some textures on some things here. So let's check out where our light is. Did I make the light disappear here? Checking my outliner for light. I've got like a lot of cubes in here at this point. Oh, there's my light. All right, so the light needs to, we need to move that over to be a bit closer. And then let's turn that into a sun. So we're going to go down to light settings, which is the little light bulb icon, make that a sun. And of course that's way too light. That washes everything out and it's pointing the wrong direction. So let's point it towards our stack of cubes here. Maybe set the strength at around 10. And we can play with that a little bit later, but we just need to make sure we've got some light on it so that we can see the shading when we get on it. Even 10's a little high. I'm going to go to 7. And, all right, let's get a shade on the wrecking ball here. So we can go into materials property, add a material. I'm going to choose a color that's dark, close to black here, and then I think I'm going to change a few settings. I want it to be metallic, so I'm going to bring that up to 1, and I want it to be a bit smoother and reflective, so I'm going to bring that down a bit. All right, now I'm going to choose my chain here. All right, and I'm going to choose Shift select one of them to be the active object because you can only apply a material to one object. So I'm going to apply it to my active object. I'm going to select a mid-gray here. I also want to make that metallic, so I'm going to increase my metallic and decrease my roughness a bit, which will affect just that one chain. But what you can do is hit with the other selected Control L. Okay, so we've selected and made this, we hit Control L in order to link that material to the other chain here. So we've got that material taken care of. Let's go ahead and choose the plane, our ground here, and we probably should be naming things here. So let's throw ground in there. Let's choose a color here. I don't know, I could go with all grays. Gray might be, maybe we go that route here. I'm gonna make it at least smoother so it's somewhat reflective. All right, now our blocks, right? Our blocks here, we need to apply a material to blocks, but maybe we don't want them all to be the same. So let's go ahead and hit 1, go into front orthographic view, make sure your X-ray is turned on, and we want to select everything. You might have to Shift select twice your light, and then Shift select one of these blocks to make it your active block. Okay, so we're going to apply material to here, and then we're going to link it like we did the links of chain here to all these other boxes. We're going to go into shading for this one because we're going to use a node. So let's try making each of the boxes be random. So we're going to go into shading here. We're going to add a new material. Let's right-click and delete the, well, can we keep that? Yeah, we can keep that. So let's keep that. Let me zoom in a bit so you guys can see. It puts a principal BSDF in the material output over here. We need to add something. Let's search for, I want to say it is object info. So there's an object info node that we're going to use. So we're going to put it over here. And it has this random down here, so it randomizes things. And then what we're going to do is hook that into what's called a color ramp. Oops, I think color ramp was there. There's color ramp. It's all one word. All right. And I need to zoom out a little bit and move these around. Okay, so we're going to connect these. So what we can do is connect random to this node here and color to this base color here. And we can kind of increase our, oops, I gotta click that. We're going to increase our black a bit. And let's find our, where's our active material. So that's our active material right here. Let's link that. Let's hit Control L. You need your cursor up here in the viewport. Control L, link materials. And you can see what happened here when I linked the material is that some of these are whiter on the end of the color ramp, which is down here on the right, and then some of them are gray and some of them are black. And so you can kind of change the color ramp if you want more of them in the gray here. Probably could do that. All right, so that gives us our materials here. So let's go into render mode and back into layout. And we'll turn X-ray off here. Maybe turn our overlays off to see what we've got. All right, so there's kind of our scene right now. And let's hit spacebar. All right. So again, you might want to play around a little bit with the settings in order to get a little more smash out of there. Let me see if I can do that without breaking it real quick. So one of the things I'm going to do is turn my overlays back on so I can see what I'm scaling. I'm going to scale this up just a bit. I am going to see if I can't, with rigid body, make this go even higher. Let's see if it'll stay together at 15 kilograms. I'm also going to, with X-ray mode on, select all my boxes and make them lighter. I need to shift select my light to make sure my light's not there. All right, so this is point 1. Let's try 0.05. And remember, this is only change that box, so we need to go up to Object, Rigid Body, Copy from Active. All right, I'm going to turn the overlays back off, give us a little angle here, and hit spacebar and see if this works. Nice. Okay, so the last thing to do here is to render our video to get it all set up. We actually have to do a little staging. We're looking at it now, it's a bit dark. Let's go ahead and grab our light here and convert that to a sun, which would be too bright. We can dial that back down to strength of around 10. And we need to position that. Let's position our camera first so we can see here that we've zoomed in on our blocks, and we need to move that around. So if we click into in and view, we can lock camera to view, and we can swing around. We want to be at an angle where we can see the ball impact the blocks. All right, and so now that we've got that set up, maybe rotate it a little bit, zoom out, maybe kind of look down a little bit, give it a bit of an angle. All right, so and you can duplicate your light. I'm going to go ahead and toggle off camera here, and maybe hit 7 on my numpad, go into the top mode here, and I selected a block. There's my light, and maybe duplicate the light and do a little fill over on the side. All right, let's go back to the camera view and see what we've got here. All right, go ahead and hit spacebar. Test the animation out. All right, that looks great. I have 250 frames down here. I need to figure out when to stop the video. That looks like a good spot right in there, 120. So I'm going to go ahead and end at 120, and then I'm going to come up and select my output properties. Remember, you have to change your output folder to a place that you can access. So that, for me, would be, for instance, the desktop. I can use the desktop here. Click Accept. So, and then we want to change file format. So by default, Blender produces a whole series of images, and you're supposed to go use those images in a video sequencer and sort of build your animation. But there's a quicker way. So under Movie, we've been using AVI JPEG with 100% quality, and that does the trick here. So it's always best to save, File, Save, before we render, and then click Render, Render in Animation, and you're off and running. So in the end, we'll have a nice about 5 or 6 second video simulation of our wrecking ball. Thanks for your time and attention, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.